Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome back to the Galactic Court podcast. I am here as your host, Andy, as I am every single time, to be fair. There's no one that's doing the show apart from me. So, of course, I'm always here as your host to take you through whatever that we're doing at this moment in time. Just before we get into today's quick live episode, make sure you're following the Galactical podcast. You can follow and subscribe on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, wherever you listen to your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, everywhere else. Give a like, give a follow, and make sure that you are there for every episode that drops. I've literally just got off doing a live episode with Clan Randalorian in our Skeleton Crew review. So this week's episode of Skeleton Crew, episode 5 that came out, we were there for that, and we've just literally finished doing that right now. And so, like 10, 15 minutes ago, whatever it was. So make sure you jump over and you can catch that episode on both of our YouTubes. So make sure if you're interested in Skeleton Crew, you go and catch that out. We're there every single week until the end of the series, collaborating together, doing a live episode every Wednesday. So make sure you're jumping in for that. Today, though, or right now, I should say, I am here to talk about Marvel's What If, as we are doing every single day whilst this show is on. Season 3, Episode 5, What If the Emergence Destroyed the Earth? This, again, a little bit of deception in the name of the title of this episode. It wasn't quite what I imagined was going to be happening in this episode. I sort of wanted to see what happened if they were fighting to stop the emergence and it didn't happen, and they weren't able to stop it, and the emergence then did happen, as opposed to what actually did happen, which was the emergence happened a lot earlier, years before the Eternals were able to come together to stop it, and the aftermath of what happens there. Excuse me. So again, a lot happening in this episode, a lot of people that we got to see. So we had Ironheart, we had Mysterio, a little cameo by Sharon Carter as the Power Broker. We saw Okoye, we got Wong, Valkyrie, Ying Nan, Vision as well that was in there, and of course we get to see 3 of the other Watchers at the end, the Eminence, the Incarnate, and the Executioner. So that was really interesting to see at the end as well. We'll get into that a little bit, but the basis part of this episode is that the Watcher starts with this episode by saying that in every universe where this has happened, Riri Williams is always the answer to the problem of saving the Earth, but she's never able to save it. It always ends every single time. It ends the exact same way, which basically is her dying and the Earth not recovering. So it was a really weird episode in the fact that basically it shows that after the emergence destroys the Earth, it's cut up into literal pieces, which almost like gave a little bit of a throwback to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. When they had that whole season where they were sort of a little bit in the future, and the Earth had been destroyed by a great happening. Kind of gave that sort of vibes to me a little bit, but the planet's left in literal pieces. Quentin Beck made his move and took over Stark Industries, creating an army of drones called the Iron Foundation to keep all of the survivors under his control. In the present day, we see Riri Williams. She's trying to get parts together to make some sort of weapon to take down Vision, who himself was killed and reprogrammed by Beck and is now under his control and his lieutenant. So Riri is recruited by what's left of the Resistance in Wong, Okoye, Valkyrie, and Ying Nan. And basically, they do manage to take down Vision, and Riri uses the parts to make herself into a synthezoid, where she thinks that she can basically destroy the nanites powering his illusions, and she can see through them with Vision stuff as well. But it turns out to basically be all a ploy by Mysterio in the first place, and he's captured her, and he's basically breaking down her spirit, and he's literally killing her. And the Watcher says this is how it always goes down, and he turns away and looks like he's walking away because he can't watch anymore, and he says no. He decides that he wants to step in again, breaking his oath as the Watcher, and kicking off everything to help Riri basically fight back, which she does. And she slices off Beck's nanites, shutting down the Iron Federation, killing him, and then projecting a big Avengers logo into the sky to let everyone know that there is hope. And then what we see at the very end of the episode is the fact that the Watcher himself who's being watched. As I mentioned, we've got the Eminence, the Incarnate, and the Executioner. They're there keeping an eye on the Watcher, and they say he's broken his oath again. So now we have to watch the Watcher. I think that's obviously all leading up to the final 2 episodes of this series, which, as I discussed before, I'm looking forward to. It looks like it's going to be the 2-part finale. What if the Watcher disappeared? And what if? From what we've seen in the trailer, this does look like this is basically leading up to this, that the Watcher can't help himself now. He's broken his oath a couple of times. He's going to step in, and they're going to step in on him. But as for this episode, interesting to see. Obviously, we saw the Iron Federation under the control of Beck. Sort of a bit of a callback to the Iron Legion that we first saw in Age of Ultron, because they're very similar looking sort of bots to that as well. Also, a little bit of a cameo from Sharon Carter's Power Broker from the Falcon and Winter Soldier series, selling goods to people for obviously power or money or information. And because she's been included, it may be a sign, I think, that Sharon Carter may be returning to live action in the MCU soon. So we'll have to wait and see that. Maybe we do see her in the Captain America film. Who knows? Obviously, we see the alternate White Vision that has been so far missing in the MCU since he disappeared at the end of WandaVision. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. We do see the Asgardian skiff from Thor's Love and Thunder. That was good to see there, and obviously being pirated. I was just talking about pirates and Skeleton Crew. That's why it's in my brain. Being piloted by Valkyrie as well. Bit of a Casper reference to White Vision, which always did elicit a little chuckle. What was interesting about this particular Mysterio as well is it did seem like the ultimate Mysterio that we did see from the comics. It did seem to resemble him quite a lot in how he was doing. So, and Brandon Clark, oh Lord, long time no see. It's been a whole 20 minutes, mate. Where the hell are you? I'm missing you already. Brandon Clark of Clan Brandalorian, we literally did finished our live stream of Skeleton Crew 20 minutes ago, as I mentioned earlier. So make sure you're jumping on and go and see that collab that we're doing and catch up on that. But I appreciate you jumping onto this stream as well, buddy, and saying hello. Obviously, Mysterio also refers to himself as the Master of Illusions, which is obviously the name he gives himself in the comics. But then obviously seeing the trio of Watchers at the end was so good. And I think it could very well be the same trio of Watchers that was first shown listening to Stanley's stories in the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 scene. That was obviously the cameo that you had in that film. So obviously there's no confirmation, it's just me guessing. But if it was, that would be pretty cool that they were listening to Stanley's stories. As for this episode, again, slightly underwhelming. I felt this series has been a hit and miss because it goes average episode, good episode, average episode, good episode. It has sort of just gone back and forth between them. I still think Agatha episode is still the best one that we've seen this season so far. This one, because we're not too familiar with obviously Riri Williams / Ironheart, we got to see obviously a bit of her in Wakanda Forever. We're going to be seeing more of her in our own series next year. And this felt like a bit more of an introduction to her, just for us to get used to what she can do and what she is going to be like. So it's kind of hard when you don't necessarily understand the characters just yet and what they're going to be bringing to the MCU to then have episodes like this based around them, because it didn't quite hit the notes for me. It was a little bit boring. Some of the action was good. It's always good to see so many variants. I mean, this is What If, after all. We're supposed to be getting unfamiliar scenarios and different combinations of characters pulled together. I think the difference so far between the other series of What If, or maybe even the first series of What If and the other two that we've had, is that series 1 seemed to have a plot and an overall overarching story that brought everyone together at the end of it for a purpose. Season 2 didn't really seem like that. Season 3 doesn't seem like this so far. Obviously, at the end of this episode, it's maybe started to tie in to what the finale is going to be. But Season 1 felt better, I felt, because it had an overall arc that was pushing towards an overall storyline, whereas these are just random episodes thrown out there. And it doesn't feel connected. Obviously, because it's What If, you can tell any story you want, really. And I don't think they're pushing the boat out far enough to really do that, which is a shame, really. Because this series has the potential to do so much. But as it's the last one, I really want them to go out with a bang in these next few episodes. I mean, tomorrow's episode of What If 1872, obviously, I think that's going to be some sort of cowboy Wild West Avengers type thing. I think what's a shame in this series so far as well is that because we've now moved on from the core Avengers, the original 6, should we say, apart from some of them, as we know, a couple of them are still around. But because we moved on from them, it means that they don't seem to be as willing to do episodes around them or anything like that in What If as well, which is a shame because the combinations you could have are amazing. But because of that, they tend to want to focus more on what is the current list of Avengers or the heroes that are around in the MCU now, as opposed to the big 6 that have gone. And I think that kind of makes it a bit of a shame that they don't seem to want to include them as much. Because it's not that the current list isn't strong enough to be able to hold their own. It's just, why would you not include some of the characters that have become some of the biggest parts of our lives when it's for the MCU? So it's just a shame that we haven't hit the high notes, I think, for this season so far, and that we're not getting the characters that maybe we want to see either. But we'll have to wait and see where it goes. As for tomorrow's episode, as I mentioned, 1872, we're getting Shang-Chi, Kate Bishop, John Walker, the US agent, as well as I'm sure a couple of others that aren't named, and we'll have to wait and see how that goes. I'm really looking forward to the last couple of days, as I said, the sort of 2-part finale, and see how that goes. But that's it pretty much for today's episode. I will be back tomorrow. Tomorrow's a very special day for me because it is my birthday. So I'll be back on my birthday just to run through that What If episode really quickly. But until then, everyone, take care, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks for tuning in to the Galactic Core Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. But until next time, go get your geek on.